Okay. So let's start with number 2. Number 1, you still need to know how to graph points and figure out if you're looking at a trapezoid or anything else. But I want to go through and make sure we got these basic things down. Tomorrow you still have a homework check, okay? Some of you did this, so let's make sure we got it right. All right, let's take a look at number 2. So what we have here is what we call a trapezoid, but it's an isosceles trapezoid. What makes an isosceles trapezoid is you have a pair of opposite sides that are parallel. Only one pair of parallel sides. Okay? The opposite sides that are parallel, for it to be isosceles, that means they have to be congruent to each other. And you can have a trapezoid that's not isosceles, which we can look at here in a minute. But the point is, if you have an isosceles trapezoid, the opposite sides are congruent to each other, and the other opposite pair are parallel to each other. Okay? So, and you also need to understand base angles. Base angles are attached to the same base. Your bases, you have 2 bases in trapezoids. The 2 bases are the parallel sides. So this is not a base, and that's not a base. The parallel sides are bases. So this angle and this angle are base angles. And these 2 angles are base angles to each other. So understanding what the term base angles means, okay? So now find the measure of angle K and the measure of angle L. Well, the measure of angle L in an isosceles trapezoid only should be the same as M. So this is 23. So write that down if you didn't have that. And then you also have learned, what does consecutive mean with parallel lines and a transversal? That up to 180. Consecutive doesn't mean 180. It just means if you have 2 parallel lines and you have 2 consecutive angles, consecutive means right next to each other. That's really what it means. But when I ask you that, you typically understand that I'm really asking they add up to 180, right? So that's really what I'm looking at. So these are consecutive. Technically, these are consecutive because they're next to each other. Okay? But these 2 add up to 180 because you have 2 parallel lines cut by a transversal, and they're on the same side of the transversal. So these 2 add up to 180. So if this is 23, how do I get angle K? 180 minus 23. Do that on your calculator, and that's your answer. 157. So that's 157 degrees. Guess what that one is? 157 degrees. Okay. Only in an isosceles trapezoids are your base angles are equal. These 2 are equal to each other, and these 2 are equal to each other. All right, let's take a look at number 3. We have a kite. It's a quadrilateral. How many degrees are in a quadrilateral? If you add them all up? 360 degrees. Okay, so that is helpful to know sometimes. So here we have a kite. I know it's a kite because I have these 2 sides being congruent to each other and these 2 sides being congruent to each other. That's what makes a kite. Okay, and you need to make sure you're looking at those other theorems. There's a whole bunch of theorems. You gotta make sure you have those. All right? So if this is 130 degrees and that's 90, that's 220 degrees. How many degrees are left? How do you figure that out? 360 minus 220. What is that? 140 degrees. In a kite, these 2 angles are always equal. So if there's 140 degrees left, what are each of these? 70. So write that down. 70 degrees. Again, that's from a theorem. All right? The opposite angles in a kite are congruent. Not these 2. These are opposite angles, but they're not congruent. It's these 2 pieces that are congruent. Always. All right. Let's go down to number 4 here. Mid-segment. Find CD. This is a mid-segment. Notice these 2 pieces are congruent. And these 2 pieces are congruent. That means this is a midpoint, and that's a midpoint. This is a mid-segment, just like in a triangle. Here's your formula you got to have. Your bases added together, divided by 2, equals this mid-segment. So 12, you can write it down, 12 plus 36 all of that divided by 2. 12 plus 36, all of that divided by 2. 12 plus 36 is what? 48. And 48 divided by 2 is 24. Notice 24 is between these two numbers. If you get a number that's not in between these two numbers for your mid-segment, you're doing something wrong. Okay, so 24 was that answer. 12 plus 36, all divided by 2. That's how you find the mid-segment. Alright, so we got some easy ones on the homework check tomorrow. And then we'll get to some more difficult ones as we progress. We're going to keep going. Here's a great question. I didn't ask you any decimal questions on the homework check. Just need to know if you know the process. But there's one like this, but it's not decimals. So if you have the mid-segment, I'm going to raise this up and draw on this. If you have the mid-segment, you ought to be able to get the other side. Okay? So remember, it's base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 equals your mid-segment, equals the mid-segment. So let's fill in everything we know. We'll call this base 1. Base 1 plus base 2, 0.6, divided by 2 is going to equal your mid-segment, 1.8. Write this down so you know how to do it. This is on your homework check tomorrow. So, you can't get this base 1 until you get rid of the 2. Because the base 1 is attached by this grouping symbol here. To get rid of your denominator, what do we always do? Multiply both sides by 2. Base 1 plus 0.6 equals 2 times 18, everybody. 36, and you have a decimal, is 3.6. Now what? Subtract the 0.6. And you get the base 1 to be 3. 3 sounds small, but look how small this is. Okay. Alright. Make sure you can do this, because this very process is, you need to know how to do it. Alright, on the homework check tomorrow. So hopefully everybody got it written down? Okay, gonna keep going. Got it? Again, you can watch all this. I'll have this posted here in the next couple hours if you want to rewatch it. Let's go back. Let's go to this one. Oops. Number 6. The value of x. There's one of these on the homework check tomorrow. Not as difficult as this one, but there's something like this. Okay? So if you look through those problems, I took them literally from the problems there. If you go through the problems, you're going to see some, all right? So, again, what is the formula? It's base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 equals the mid-segment. It doesn't matter which one you call base 1, base 2. Okay, base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 equals the mid-segment. Okay? Let's do it real quickly. I don't want the 2 there, so let's multiply by it. On both sides, that's a whole group here. You got to multiply by 2. Don't just multiply the first or the second one. That cancels out on the left side. It reduces to 1. X plus 3x is 4x. 11 plus 3 is 14. On the right side we have 6x minus 4. Now you can do what we've been doing the last week, right? Let's put these together. I'm going to subtract 4x to the right. Now what? Did I do something wrong?
No, I was just wondering, could you also divide like 4x plus 14 by 2 since it's all...
Yes, yeah. Okay, so now we're going to add 4. 18 equals 2x. X equals 9. Okay? So I think I said on the homework check, find x. You got enough time to do the last one? Good? Let's look at it. It's a kite, I think. Yep, it's a kite. Diagonals. Diagonals of a kite hit at 90 degrees. Also, these two are congruent to each other. Not these two. Okay? So again, there's something special about these angles and the diagonal from those, but not the other diagonal. Okay, so you say 1/10 x minus 1 is equal to 9. Okay? So let's add 1. 1/10 x equals 10. What do I do with this coefficient, everybody?
Times it by 10.
Yeah, times by 10. Reciprocal. Reciprocal of 1 over 10 is 10 over 1. So x equals 100. Alright, so there's some great examples of all you're supposed to know. Alright, I'll have that posted.